Hello. Today we're at Tahiti Woods and we have a task of widening the rides. Um, the canopy is quite closed at the moment, so by widening the ride we are diversifying the habitat, and that creates more light, which increases the invertebrate life, which it will support. And the tools we're using are bow saw and loppers for snedging the thinner branches, and then we also have a felling bar which can help if the tree isn't going over of its own accord, and you can just wedge it in and apply a bit of pressure, which can help. Health and safety issues. We have a public footpath which we're working next to, so we have signs at either end where we're notifying the public of what we're doing here, so it's quite closed off to the public. Safety issues for ourselves. We have been given training on how to safely fell a tree and how to use the tools. And we're also wearing hard hats as a precaution. How is it carried out? First of all, using the bow saw, we come to the side of the tree that we've determined beforehand on which direction to fell a tree, and that is determined by basically looking up the trunk and into the canopy and seeing the weight distribution. So and also, other than that, it's where the tree is more conveniently felled, so where the open space is. So in the case of this tree, we have a good open space towards the public footpath. So the sink cut was made on the side of the direction that you want it to go, and then the fell cut is made on the opposite side. And this one here is relatively horizontal, and it came down well enough. Problems, improvements. We're bringing down a fair quantity of wood today, so one possible improvement would be setting something up where we could actually remove some of the wood from the site and use the wood for maybe fence making or green woodworking. And that's it. Thank you. Okay, hello. Today we're at Duchy College and we are removing some eucalyptus trees, which are non-native species. They have very limited value for wildlife, so we are removing them from this nature reserve, and we are leaving the native species at the same time. We're hoping to plant some more native species so we can have it as a resource for green woodworking materials, for example. So I'll show you some of the tools. We have bow saws and loppers and slashers. So we're being careful where we're using those, that we have safe distance from other work colleagues. We are using a turf wincher to remove the trees, and I'll show you that. Jim is just moving it at the moment. Basically, you tie it round the back of the tree, and then you use the cable to the tree you want to remove. You attach it to it, and there's a ratchet mechanism inside which allows you to gain the necessary tension, which pulls the tree out. So we're also using mattocks whenever we're dealing with a particularly big tree to loosen the surface roots, which just allows to use the wincher, makes it a bit easier to use. Alternative methods, we could have maybe had a JCB in here to dig the trees out mechanically, but we felt to use this method. It's much more sensitive on the impact. It allows us to maintain the native trees, and we've also carried this task out in the winter to lessen the impact on wildlife. Okay. There's one additional health and safety issue, which is due to the sheer pressure involved on the tree that we're pulling out. We make sure that everyone stands well back, because whenever the tree's coming out, the power involved, if anything were to snap, such as the rope, then that could potentially be dangerous. The ground is also quite uneven, and plenty of brambles that you could trip over, so we're just being mindful of the working space.
Hello, we're at Gwythian Green, which is a local nature reserve in West Cornwall. It's run by the local community. There are various plant species that the site supports, orchids for example. Today we're clearing a bit of willow scrub in quite a marshy area. It's hoped to help support butterflies by clearing the willow, to allow the high light levels to reach the site. So we're cutting the willow as low as possible to try and prevent it regrowing, basically. First of all, we're using slashers to clear the area around the willow. It has been coppiced in the past, so we're recoppicing. We're also using bow saws for thick stems. We're using loppers for the thinner stems. Then we're using baler twine to tie up into faggots, which we're going to reuse next week on another project, bank restoration. So we're not wasting the cut material. We're doing this in winter to prevent as much as possible the disturbance of wildlife, the invertebrates that are going to hopefully benefit from what we've done today. We have steel toe-capped boots on, and we've purposefully not worn gloves when using the likes of the slasher, so to prevent the tool maybe coming out of our hands when using it. Hello, we're at Tahiti Park. Last week we were here on a job, riverbank maintenance. The riverbank was being eroded. That was causing a problem because it's joining onto a public footpath. There are a lot of visitors to this site, so it was important to try and prevent further erosion. So we've sourced the material locally from about 5 to 10 miles away, from a job that we were on the previous week. So the material is local wood. We used thicker diameter wood, local alder to drive in as stakes. Then we have willow, where we have weaved it through the stakes
to create that barrier. Then we've infilled behind that with soil to consolidate that. In other situations, this wouldn't be a problem because soil bank erosion would actually create useful habitat in its own right for various invertebrates and pioneer plants would also colonize that. In this context, it's necessary. Health and safety, we had various tools. We had a mushroom bar, bow saws, and nails as well for hitting the sites. So we were mindful not to wear gloves. We had hard hats and steel toe-cap boots. We were also mindful that we had visitors using the path as we were working. So we were constantly on the watch out for walkers from either direction. The site is managed by Cormac, the environmental arm of the council. So we're working on their behalf on the job. And we are just back today to finish off cutting the tops off a few of the stakes. And it's looking pretty good. Thank you.
Hello, today we're at on campus, Dutchy College, Rosewarne. We're planting native trees to create hedgerow. It's replacing a hedgerow that was made up of non-native species, so the likes of Escallonia. In replacing it with a native hedge, it's going to benefit wildlife to a much greater extent. It will provide good habitat and food for a range of invertebrates. We have various native species, oak, hazel, alder, for example. In time, that may create suitable habitat for bank voles and various small mammals. So it has various ecological benefits. We've started with planting just in a single row to begin with, and we'll later plant in between where we've previously planted to thicken up the hedge. Health and safety wise, we're using spades, and there are other people using the site today, so we're just being careful whenever people are moving about. Using spades appropriately, just not jumping on the end, just if the ground's too firm, we're using mattocks to loosen up where roots are causing problems. I would also add that the trees are about 2 years old, so they're not too difficult to plant. The roots aren't too extensive, so we are pit planting to try and avoid root disturbance as much as possible. We were very careful in how we dug them out of the ground to avoid damaging too much of the root system. And we're also transporting them in pots so that the roots don't dry out in the air. We're also using guards on trees, as rabbits and deer particularly can come along and gnaw into the bark, which can disturb the layer underneath, which is vital for the tree's function. So we're also putting tree guards on, and we'll come back later and remove those in a few years when necessary. Thank you.